Hello. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to wait just a couple more minutes to see if we get any additional uh, participants, and then we'll get going. I guess while I have you here, do you want to let us know, like introduce yourself as far as who you are and what department you're in? You can either, I think you should be able to unmute yourself, um, or you can put it in the chat. Oh, Learning Systems Institute, neuroscience. We get a whole lot of neuroscience students. Oh, Claude Pepper Center. I don't think we've had a whole lot of projects from the Claude Pepper Center yet. I know that Dr. Charnas used to put in uh, UROP projects in the past from food science. We get several projects from that department as well. Okay, well, I'll get started. Um, oh, textile science, that's cool. My name's Alicia Bataille, and I run the Undergraduate Research Opportunity Program, which is within the Center for Undergraduate Research and Academic Engagement. We do abbreviate that, the CRE, so it's a little easier to remember that way. And as I'm going through everything, feel free, you can unmute yourselves and ask a question, or feel free to put one in the chat. Okay, so there's a short clip of mentors, and let me double check that I'm able to, or I'm sharing sound. Okay, so I'll play this short video. Oh,
Prior to taking any UROP students, my concerns were the same as any time you would consider taking novice students.
Whether I would even find a student who is interested in my field.
I didn't know if I'd be working with students who were in my discipline.
The level of management and time that I would have to put in.
Was there going to be enough work? Was it going to be a waste of time for the student?
Can you bring them in on the front end? How do you bring them in on the middle end?
I guess the real trick with something like this is to stage something that's both useful for me, but also for them.
I didn't really have any expectations, but I was very pleasantly surprised.
We put you in contact with motivated students.
The student assistant whom I work with was an independent thinker and a true researcher.
They were extraordinarily bright, creative thinkers, learned very quickly.
The students that we've had at DOMI in the UROP program surpassed my expectations.
They're really enthusiastic and they become really invested very quickly.
I find them to be very highly motivated.
I'm getting a free set of brains and hands, and I'm able to do things that I won't be able to do by my own.
They're some of the smartest students on campus, so it's very energizing for me as a faculty member.
UROP strength there is pretty pre-selecting students that I then get to pick through sort of the cream of the crop.
They were tremendously helpful.
The materials grant was a huge deal for us.
It helped us carry out the work effectively.
That lets you have some outreach activities and prove that you can mentor and guide students.
And it gives me a chance to really bounce some ideas off of someone who's just a clean slate.
It's affecting my teaching probably more than my research, and how I incorporate research.
It's really a mutual relationship between the student and the faculty member.
They test the water and I can see whether it's feasible or not.
There are some very talented and highly achieving students at Florida State that deserve opportunities.
Okay, so that's just kind of a quick like testimonial about UROP, and I will admit it's a little older. We probably need to do some new interviews for more recent UROP research mentors. But maybe you all could be part of that in the future. So I'll go over the program quickly. It's 3 parts. Students participate in a colloquium course that's taught by upper level students in their field or a similar field. So they are divided by, like biology, psychology, hard sciences, humanities, creative, social sciences, business. So the students participate in this throughout the entire academic year. During the first week of classes in the fall, they get access to a giant database of UROP projects that are submitted by research mentors like you. And they go through and reach out to research mentors and you all sign a compact, and then you start working together in the fall and ideally work together through the spring and their presentation at the Undergraduate Research Symposium, which takes place usually late March, early April. So this is a pretty big program. It is designed for first and second year students and new transfer students. So these students might not have quite as much experience / coursework under their belt, but they can work on your project for multiple years after they complete UROP. And it's usually their first real research experience. So as I mentioned before, the colloquium is in the fall and the spring. It's discipline specific. It's taught by upper level students who've done a lot of research in that field. So they're helping the students learn the mechanics of research in general, right? Because you'll obviously be teaching them the specifics of your project and the techniques and methods that you use. But the UROP leaders are there to support them in navigating some of the challenges of being an undergraduate research student, right? Especially managing classes and research time and extracurriculars and all of those different pieces. Then, as I mentioned, they start the research assistantship. So there are lots of projects that they can choose from, and they don't have to do it in their field. I will mention we get probably a lot more students who are majoring in biology, pre-med, psychology, compared with the number of projects from those departments. So students sometimes branch out. Like there are a lot of bio students who end up working in like STEM education and projects in that way. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do this for UROP and then move on to a different project. Some students I've heard of are pre-med and they continue working on their, STEM education project for multiple years after they complete UROP. So it can be really beneficial both for the research mentor and for the students in continuing their research mentor relationship moving forward. And research mentors can be faculty, postdocs, graduate students, campus partners, so other offices on campus, program evaluation is something that students have done before. And also they work with community organization leaders as well. We've had several museums in the area that have participated as research mentors. And the idea is that these students work with you for 5 to 10 hours a week. So I'm not sure if any of you were able to catch the undergraduate research symposium this year. I should probably update these pictures, as the current pictures on the PowerPoint are from the old union, and we've held it in the new union for the last 2 years. You will be able to see the most recent program and what that looks like. If you let me click on it. And you can go down here. And this actually has the last couple of years of the program. So here's one from Allison Abarca. And you can see they have the information about their project and their research mentor. They have a short bio. We actually have them put the poster up. I do want to mention students are required to add the poster to the program, but if they want to take it down immediately after the event, they are able to do that. And that's something you need to discuss with your student so that they understand they need to take it down. But it's really cool, especially for their future networking media, social media. So students will put this link up on LinkedIn and things like that to show that they participated in the symposium and what research they presented. Okay. So I'm going to talk through what UROP is going to look like, your side and the student side. So they have to take those colloquium classes, and in this case, biweekly means every other week, not twice a week. Then early in the fall semester, they'll reach out to mentors that have projects they find interesting, and typically there's an interview process or matching process where you decide if the student is a good fit and vice versa. I do want to mention putting in a UROP research project does not require you to take on a student. So if you interview several students or as many as you want to interview and you don't find a good match, you don't have to take a student. There's no obligation. We do expect you to meet with the student every other week at least. I would encourage you to meet once a week so that the student has kind of deadlines that they have to complete and then meet with you to talk about their progress. I know maybe to some of you that sounds like way too much time in between meeting with the students, and to others of you, maybe that sounds just about right, but it is really helpful to have those regular meetings, especially considering these are early career students. And then at the end, they present the poster about their research assistantship. So for UROP, we have kind of general formatting guidelines for the posters, but really the content needs to be reviewed by the research mentor. So here are some of the pieces of the process. You submit your research project proposal for UROP, and again, the deadline for that is August 19th. So you have lots of time to think about it. And if you want to talk to me about your project that you're thinking, I'm happy to do that. And we can talk about like expectations for the students and different things like that. But again, it should offer 5 to 10 hours a week of work for the student to do. That can vary, right? I know there are some projects where there's a few weeks with very little expectations, and then you're running an experiment or something, and the student needs to come in a bit more during those weeks. So it's totally understandable if it's if it fluctuates a little bit. I did want to bring up the compact. So that is the research compact that all students and mentors sign. And let me switch to a different share. So this is the UROP Assistantship Compact. And the main goal of this, and this is from last year, is to make sure you and the student are on the same page and establish your expectations for the project. A lot of it is, straightforward, making sure everyone has each other's contact information, but then also the project information. And most of these things are also in the project submission portal, about some of the expectations of the project. But this is a point where you can really nail down, this is what I want you to do in the project. Because, students and graduate students and faculty, they might put in a project now, but then once you actually get to the fall, your project may have changed a little bit, and that's perfectly fine. But this is something you sign in the fall where you really nail down what the expectations are for the student to complete. One thing we found very important is creating a communication plan with the student so that you have an idea of how often you're going to meet, how often you're going to communicate. If the student sends you an email, how quickly will you get back to them, and vice versa. So just establishing those guidelines and those boundaries. If you are not going to answer emails on the weekends, make that really clear, that the student needs to email you during the week and can expect an email back quickly, whereas the weekends are off limits. Another piece of the beginning of this are SMART goals. I'm not sure if you've heard about them before. They're specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. I would encourage you all to maybe think about them for your own progress through your different projects. But we have these so that it's even more specific about what the student needs to do over the semester. So this is like, the compact is general project expectations, where the SMART goals can be more specific. You want them to review 10 to 15 papers over this semester and create an annotated bibliography. So that could be one SMART goal. For SMART goal 3, again, we did build in those communication expectations as well. So the student will work with you to create the SMART goals. And again, you and the student must sign them. So all of this is actually done through DocuSign, but I just wanted to make sure you were aware of what these expectations are. Okay, and then orienting and working with your student. We do provide some training that's kind of general with the Environmental Health and Safety Office here on campus. So students who are STEM majors are required to attend this laboratory safety training. And then we also have library workshops that are offered throughout the fall semester. Some of them are dealing with using NVivo, some of them are dealing with using Qualtrics, Excel, different things like that, kind of like some basic workshops to help the student get started. So there's some of that training, but you'll be doing most of the training as far as what their expectations are on the project and what methods you use. So we went over this a little bit already about who's eligible to submit a project. I will mention when you submit the project, there is a question about if you have kind of like your advisor's permission if you are a grad student, so that we know that your advisor is on board with you taking on a UROP student. We also have some funding available. So last year we actually upped the amount, and we were able to offer more money per student, and graduate students can now request up to $500 where it used to be $250, and it is $250 per student. And graduate students can work we have guidelines for how many students mentors can work with, and graduate students, we have recommendations of working with 2 students because that can be a lot on top of your coursework and your research that you're doing. And then faculty can work with up to 6, and postdocs can work with 2 to 6 students as well. And also we have research mentor awards that are student nominated. And graduate students and postdocs can get up to $500. Well, not up to. They get a $500 award, and faculty get a $2,000 award each year. I'm realizing I don't have the chat open, and it would probably be helpful to have that open in case you have any questions. There we go. Okay. So for the mentor requirements, right? You start working with a student, you sign the compact, you have to train them for the research tasks. Again, having those 5 to 10 hours a week. And what that looks like is up to you and the student. So some research mentors want the student in the office or the lab 5 to 10 hours a week, a set schedule every single week. That definitely makes it kind of easy to keep track of what's going on. Whereas other research mentors are okay with students doing remote work whenever they have time. It just kind of depends on your style of mentoring and the expectations of the project and what you need the students to do. As I mentioned, definitely having communication at least once every other week, preferably once a week. And we do encourage you to have in-person meetings at least once a month. You'll also need to help them put the poster together in the spring. And we do have evaluation forms that you complete near the end of the fall and spring semesters. So I will mention, if you picked a UROP student, a research assistant, and you're working with them and something happens and it's not going well, you can actually say that you do not want to continue working with them in the spring semester. So there is that option. It's not like you're stuck for an entire academic year working with the student. If it doesn't work out, you can reach out to us and complete the evaluation. And you don't have to continue working with them for both semesters. And if there are any issues, please reach out to us. We are here to help you. I especially am here to help you. You know, sometimes in the past and this year, students kind of go missing. They just stop responding to emails and you don't know how else to get in touch with them. You can reach out to me. I can definitely reach out to their UROP leaders and see if they've been attending class and completing assignments. And then if something is not working out there, I can reach out to case management services, which will contact the student for us if we haven't heard from them in a while. So there are definitely many different avenues we can use to try to support the student. Another thing I wanted to add was in the evaluation in the fall, you can mention like the student is struggling and I would like to start a UROP improvement plan. So that process, we speak with the student about what kind of things have been going on that have been preventing them from meeting your expectations. And we create an action plan to move forward in the spring. And those action steps for the plan are shared with the research mentor. So everyone's on the same page about the spring expectations. So these are just different reasons why we think it's valuable for graduate students to get involved in UROP. Um, you know, a lot of graduate students are planning on faculty positions, and even if you're not, you'll probably end up in a supervisory position um, later in your career. And so getting that mentorship experience and understanding, getting some managerial experience can help you moving forward. Undergraduates can give you a new perspective on your research and bring in new ideas as well. As I mentioned before, this is for first and second year students, and they can spend multiple years on your project compared to a junior or senior student who might be there for another year if they're available. You have the option of getting the materials grants, and you can be nominated for the Undergraduate Research Mentor Award. And I know, you have a lot on your plate as a graduate student or faculty, and sometimes it can feel like a lot. But with extra help, you can speed up your research. You can have students present posters for you. We have 2 opportunities throughout the year for UROP students to present posters. There's the Florida Undergraduate Research Conference in February, where we take about 50 students to that conference, and it's for free. We're able to take a bus load of students down to the conference, and then they present at the undergraduate research symposium at the end of their UROP experience. They can help you go through and edit your papers or manuscripts, and they can even be co-authors. And again, you can start to create that those connections with your students and moving up to become advisors and different things like that. And as a faculty member, a lot of this is similar. Your materials grant is a bit more, and you can add this information to your tenure portfolio, and you get the opportunity to be nominated for the Undergraduate Research Mentor Award as well. And one thing that I think about with UROP is thinking about my experience as a mentee, as an undergraduate researcher, or even a graduate student. Think about what experiences you've had, what things that your mentor has done that you really are happy about, and what things maybe that you wish were different, and being able to try to incorporate those into your own mentorship style. And if any of you have participated in undergraduate research, I'm sure you're aware that it can help students kind of get a better idea of what they want to do, especially in the vein of becoming a researcher or scholar. It can possibly totally change their trajectory because they didn't realize that this was an option. And it can really help with their own self-efficacy and moving forward. And it's been shown to be very impactful for students from underrepresented backgrounds as well. And so one of the main purposes of UROP is to build that strong connection between the mentor and the student. So based on your own experiences, do you have any ideas about like how to create that? And while you're thinking, I'll answer one quick question. I see that someone's asking if an undergrad is planning on completing an honors thesis, can she be a UROP student? So I will say yes. If your student wants to do an honors thesis in the future, they can be. However, UROP is for first and second year students. And in order to do an honors thesis, a student must be a third or fourth year student. So they can do UROP and then move on to an honors thesis, but they can't do both in the same year. But yeah. Um, so as far as developing research questions, students are usually joining your project and kind of helping you complete your project and do your research. So in general, we expect the student to just kind of be presenting the work they did on your project, and it's not often a fully complete project because it is a short amount of time. Some students are willing to and excited to kind of do their own research questions and put a presentation together, but that's really between you and the students. Our expectations are for the students to help. Yes, yeah, we have had several research projects in the past that are historical research projects looking at archives and databases. I would encourage you to look at the previous symposium programs. In fact, our community partner we had last year was from the Thomasville Historic Society. I'll need to double check that, but yes, there's definitely archival work that goes on in UROP. But are there any ideas about what might be a good way of creating a strong connection between you and your student? Clear communication, positive interaction, and support. Yes, I think those are all great. I noticed a couple more questions. Yes, there are often a lot of education projects. I will say that we don't get a lot of education students, but there are a lot of students in closely related fields that participate in UROP. I think part of that is uh, there are a lot of psychology students who are interested in some of the work that's going on in education. But there are a lot of students who are on education projects but might not necessarily be education majors. So I talked a little bit about choosing the students previously, Paula, but there's a selection process that you determine yourself. Typically, there's an interview. Students will reach out to the research mentors who put in a project. And it's up to you and the student to decide if you want to move forward or not. And there's no obligation to work with a UROP student. Yes, there are definitely some projects that involve programming and coding as well. They're not necessarily all in engineering. Some are in computer science or scientific computing and different things like that. I do think if you want the student to have programming experience, that can be a little more difficult to find, but there are definitely projects that involve programming. So I think I will move on to the next slide. Negotiating tasks with the students. So some are done by the mentor instead. Yeah, I mean, I think, strong communication and deciding like which tasks make the most sense for the students to do and the mentor to do makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure that happens in UROP projects. Yes, students can participate in any part of the research project process, including data collection. I'm not sure which field you're in, but obviously some fields require certain training to be completed before students can participate in data collection. So, okay. So these are other questions to think about, and I kind of mentioned these already. How did mentorship influence your career path and research interest, your own growth, and what did you like or what would you want to do differently? You don't necessarily have to answer those. You can think about it, and I will show you the UROP project portal where you put in your project, and that has reflecting on these questions will help you complete that. And again, communication is very important. Making sure you're open and honest with your student, especially like guiding them in the process of research. So I will bring up the project proposal. It's really important, right, to use language that's easily accessible by lots of different levels of scholars, because we're working with first and second year students or new transfer students. And as I mentioned before, it's be inclusive of majors. We have a lot of students from all different majors. They can work on projects that aren't in their field. So leaving it open will give you a lot of opportunities to work with more students. And then just being very clear. You know, I said that we have the compact, but that comes once you've decided to work together. So in order to like make the project as clear as possible for the students so they know what to expect when they reach out to you is helpful. So let me shift over. So this is our UROP project portal. And the link is here. I can also throw that in the chat for you all if you want to look at it on your own. But it's pretty straightforward. There's extra information here about previous UROP projects, and kind of general information about the process and different things like that. The info sessions. So your name, your preferred pronouns, your preferred honorific. I will mention there's an automatic email generated from this where people will it will automatically put whatever is in here in front of your name. So if you don't have one, just leave it blank, which I think I should probably just put in the instructions, because some people will just put none, just call me by my name, and then that's listed in front of their name in the email, and it also pops up in the portal. So this is automatically added to the portal as well in front of your name. Your contact email, your position title. So this is where we want to understand if you're a faculty, postdoc, graduate student. Your college, which I think I need to update it because we have education and health and human sciences combined now. Your department.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
I'm with Learning Systems Institute. We're not affiliated with a college.
So you can do NA.
Okay.
And then under department, you can put Learning Systems Institute.
Thank you.
Yeah. We do encourage you to put a headshot if you want to, or something representing your research. It is optional. And then we also ask if there are other people who are working with your UROP student. If you're like the faculty, but your graduate student is going to work with the UROP student more directly as their supervisor, or if you have a colleague that's going to do that, and other collaborators. Then here's the information about the project. The name of the project, keywords. This is a searchable database, so students can throw keywords into the search bar and your project will pop up. If you're looking for research assistance, so if you put it in, it should be yes. You can also say how many research assistance you're looking for. One thing I do want to mention, you can say maybe one more. If you put no, it will automatically remove your project from the database. I also want to mention that when you submit this, you'll get an email with a link so that you can edit it. So in the fall, once you find a student to work with or multiple students to work with and your project is full, you can come back and edit and say no, and then that will remove your project from the database so you won't be getting emails from students looking for a project. Here's where you can put the majors that you're interested in working with, the project location. So some, like College of Engineering has a lot of projects, so people might put off of FSU main campus. It does let you say if there's a transportation option or if the project is remote, and then kind of that level as well. How many hours would you expect the student to be working? Would these be inside or outside of business hours, or is it a flexible schedule? Project description, research tasks, skills that the student may need. I know someone asked about programming, so you could say something about some programming would be helpful. And you can say whether or not it's required or recommended. And then we ask you to put together a mentoring philosophy. So thinking about those questions I asked you, like what did you like about the mentorship you've received? What are some things you want to change? You can incorporate that into your mentoring philosophy. And we give you common themes of mentoring philosophy, as well as different resources available to you in developing your mentoring philosophy if you haven't done that yet. We don't want a multi-page mentoring philosophy, but you can put up to 250 words, just a short mentoring philosophy. The idea is that hopefully students will look over it and use that to help them in selecting their project. You can also put links to publications and any additional information. Now, I do want to talk about the Research Mentor Roundtable. So this is an opportunity for you to speak directly with students before they find projects. And the way that it works is that you all will set up times when you're available and create Zoom links for those times. It usually takes place over an entire week, usually in the afternoon to evening. So we're just telling them there will be Zoom sessions available between 12 to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And so you can set up a Zoom meeting for any time during those days and times. And you can have one meeting, we don't recommend more than like 2 or 3 meetings, but just having several different meeting times where you can talk to students directly about your project. And all the students are required to go to, I think, 5 roundtable events and meet directly with the research mentors. And if you want to, you could record your roundtable and add it to your project proposal. So students, even if they missed it, they can see what your project is about. Sometimes it really helps to talk to the students directly because you can more accurately explain your project compared to them just reading your project description. We also have several like resources and like final checklist items. This just attests that I read the mentor handbook and FAQs. You understand you have to complete the performance evaluation, information about materials grants, and then you're going to help the student put a poster presentation together. So it's pretty straightforward. It has a lot of different elements, but this just helps you think through putting this together. Okay. And so you've put in your project, you're getting emails from the students in the fall. These are just like helpful things as far as interviewing the students. One interesting thing I heard from a research mentor is that before they interview, they send the student kind of a short but very important paper in their field. And when they meet with them for the interview, they ask them if they have any questions. And she said, it's a red flag if they tell me they don't have any questions, because either that means they didn't read the paper, or the student isn't comfortable asking questions, which would cause a lot of issues if there's things going on that the student needs help with, but they're not willing to reach out. So I found that to be kind of an interesting approach to vetting students and seeing if they're a good fit for the project. And yeah, just, kind of straightforward interview advice as far as looking for students. I do think it's important, in the interview, talking about the time expectations for the project. I mean, we have, right, 5 to 10 hours is listed, but if you want them to be in the lab or the research office for 5 to 10 hours for a very specific schedule, that's really important. And, also asking the students, do you have other extracurricular things that could possibly get in the way? I want to make sure that that's clear. So I saw someone has their hand up.
Hi, yes, that's
Yeah.
me. Sorry, I was too lazy to type this in the chat. So if you had students that you wanted to have like a specific skill set. So for example, if I needed a student who knows how to scrape data or how to do text mining, things like that, would I add that into the proposal itself? And then if there are some skills that I know can be taught. So like for data scraping, I know that there exists these online boot camps that are maybe with like 5 hours worth of time investment, they could learn the skill. And I don't have to teach it to them directly. I could say, okay, here, go to this boot camp that's online and learn it that way. Would I be able to do that? And then would it count towards like their time commitment?
Yeah. So, right, we had that like skills that the research assistants may need. You can put required or recommended for those. And you can definitely have them do training that's not directly through you. That would count towards their like 5 to 10 hours a week. But I mean, obviously that would be right at the beginning.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And then things when you're thinking about taking on this position, your own workload and time commitments. Knowing myself and other graduate students, and based on some of the UROP students, I think some people have a hard time understanding how much time their time is already spoken for. So just make sure you fully understand like what your expectations are, both in the fall and spring semester. And again, right, your project doesn't have to be totally fleshed out before you put a proposal in, but by the time you're starting to work with the students, it is really helpful to have very clear expectations of what you want them to do. And also right off the bat, making sure that you and the student have a clear communication plan and are having regular meetings and communication. I am pretty sure 95% of the issues that come up in UROP would be solved through clear, regular communication. And we're here to help. So if you're struggling with the UROP student, or the UROP student isn't coming in, or you're having trouble getting in touch with them, reach out to us. We're here to help. You can also talk to your colleagues or your advisor for advice about being a mentor. And one other thing is like, as much as I think there are people who avoid conflict, it is really important to kind of take care of issues as soon as they come up, rather than just trying to avoid conflict and do it yourself because it's easier in that moment. By the time they get further into the semester, they may have made a lot more mistakes that you didn't catch. And as you all know, right? You want to be gentle, have that compliment sandwich if things aren't going the way you want them to, in order to sort of support the student in correcting course. And undergrads are stressed. Undergrads seem very overwhelmed now. I think they're always overwhelmed, but I think it's more apparent in recent years. So with COVID and everything, I think they got extra stressed. So just be empathetic when students are struggling. And then this is the overall timeline, which I have to change for this year. The deadline for students to apply is June 1st this year. Mentors submit project proposals. The deadline is August 19th. And yeah, we have the first week of classes. They start their colloquium course. They get access to the database. They can attend the Research Mentor Roundtable. You do interviews. October, they start working with you, and you sign your compact. They participate in the research assistantship, and you submit your feedback surveys. In the fall and spring, you can apply for materials grants, and they present at the Undergraduate Research Symposium. Yes, I see a hands up.
Hello. Just
Hello.
a quick question. You shared that UROP does like sort of these trainings throughout the semesters. Is there anywhere that maybe once you all have them kind of planned for the semester that you all like post the schedule? Because
Yeah.
I would want the person to do like an in vivo training because I'm doing qualitative research. So just to like factor that into like the expected task and timeline for the full semester.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not sure we actually have posted it on the website or anything recently. It is posted like on the library website because we develop these in in consultation with the libraries. They actually run these. And we do send out emails to the research mentors at least once a month to include this information. So we've definitely included that in the emails to the research mentors.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Alicia, thank you for the talk. I have one question and from engineering. So does the students, when they come in, do they have the FSU email? What I mean is .fsu. Okay, great. Because
Yeah.
most of the time, some softwares that we use requires .fsu edu. Awesome,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you so much for coming. It was great to talk to all of you. You had some really great questions.